seat, sir.
You got your hearing aids?
Let me shut the door.
All right, hey, good evening, everyone. It is 6 o'clock on September the 3rd. We have a quorum from the mayor and city council, and we have a quorum present from the board of commissioners. So I call this special call joint city-county meeting to order. We'd like to start with a prayer from Reverend Clyde Turner, and we'll do the pledge of allegiance before we get started with reading.
Let's go to the Lord. Father, you know why the folks have gathered here tonight. Talk about taxes. Lord, you know how folks get upset when things like that are discussed. A lot of things they don't understand, and some things they do. There's a lot of talk, a lot of things said. And so, Lord, tonight I'm just asking that your Holy Spirit move upon every one of the commissioners as they discuss this. That, Lord, you will bring a good result from it. Lord, I want to thank you. We have a man here, Andy Chastain. Folks, he's our taxpayer. And he knows all about this stuff. And I hope and pray that our commissioners will call upon him and listen to him. Because I know tonight is going to bring a good result. Be with everyone here, and I claim this in the name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please be seated. Ladies and gentlemen, we called this meeting Friday. We agreed to the meeting, and since that time, the mayor and I have had extensive conversations, and so we've agreed that each taxing authority will present their idea. We'll give uninterrupted time for the presentation of the idea or the proposals, and then afterwards, the other party can ask questions or rebut if they so choose. Before we get started, I'd just like to say a couple of things. First, I want to thank everybody for coming out tonight. This is a matter of deep importance in our community. Right? There's a lot of people who struggle every year come tax time. Right? And this was a law that was passed to help people save their homes. We have senior citizens in this county, in this city, who struggle to pay their taxes. And so we have a method that we can use. It's just how we choose to use it. And so tonight we're going to go through a couple of proposals. But I want to say thank you to you for showing up. Thank you for communicating with your elected officials about your desire to publicly talk about this and come to hopefully some resolution tonight. Mayor?
And same thing, thankful for us all getting together here tonight to talk this over again. He said we agreed to hear both sides uninterrupted, and then when we have questions, just I guess your folks can look to you and
Right.
you'll call on them. Us on our side same way, so there's not people just talking over each other. And again, thanks for everybody coming. Small room, so I know everybody's got opinions out there too. Please, if y'all are talking or even amongst yourselves, it's going to be hard for us to hear. It's going to be hard for anybody to hear. and it's just gonna be disruptive. So please, keep your comments and all to yourself out there, and not be talking amongst one each other. And that's for the benefit of everybody in the room. And if you've got cell phones, at least put them on silent too, so that it's not ringing. And I have to call Bridge out for his phone ringing back there. But other than that, I look forward to this. We'll just turn it over to the first item of this discussion. Go ahead.
So, first item is discussion of FLOSS negotiations. So, we can present our proposals. Okay, good evening, everyone. What I have on the screen is actually 3 proposals, right? So I've held 5 town halls where I've talked about the various possibilities for FLOSS, and so I'll present these tonight for consideration. Here's a kind of breakdown. I will kind of fly through a couple of these slides because I just want to get to the actual meat and potatoes of the proposal. First thing was, House Bill 581 is what brought us all to this point. Last year they passed House Bill 92, which made a few changes to how House Bill 581 will be enacted. As I did my town halls, I used this email. This is from a city resident talking about she's on a fixed income. She makes $700 a month. She has a $1,400 tax bill in the year. So that's why we're here. 2 months of her income to pay taxes. So when we get to House Bill 581, the name of the bill is Save Our Homes Act. I tell people, it's the first real change to property taxes in the state of Georgia in almost 100 years. When property taxes started in the state of Georgia, the average house was $5,000. Right? The homestead exemption at that time was $2,000. Right? You're taxed on 40% of the value of your property. So when we first started taxes in the state of Georgia, a $5,000 house was then assessed at $2,000, and you had a $2,000 exemption. So initially, we weren't even taxing homes, right? It was other property. But time has gone on, and here we are. Throughout the years, you hear a lot about tax breaks. Different industries get tax breaks. They have lobbyists, right? And so no one's lobbying for the homeowner, right? So this was the first real legislation to look after the homeowner since we implemented property tax in Georgia. Some things about it, it created a floating homestead exemption which locked our home values, if you're a homesteader, at the 2024 rates, and then they'll go up starting next year with a CPI type of inflation type rate. It also allowed for why we're here tonight, the floating local option sales tax. Can only be used to reduce property taxes, right? And a couple of key points is it has to be reviewed in 5 years. Our legislative delegation, which is our state representative and our state senator, have to agree that we have done right by our citizens and we're doing right by the law. Part of that in the law is that we can't create a windfall. We can't use this property tax to have more revenue. It has to be used for tax relief. Floating is also designed to take care of non-homestead property owners, right? And those are businesses, investment properties, people who just moved here, right? So they're not homesteaders. A couple of key points about House Bill 92. It limited the amount of land to 5 acres, right? Before you might have had a 100-acre tract, right? There's other provisions that people can use, CUBA and things like that to take care of that. And the other thing it really did, which is important, is the surviving spouse retains the homestead exemption if the other spouse passes away. So those are some interesting things about the bill. Here's a small flyer on the bill. When you look at this, it's in the official code of Georgia annotated 48-8-10942. Says we have to use it exclusively for tax relief, right? And then it tells you how the rollback is calculated. Again, official code of Georgia annotated section 48.5-32.1. And when you go to that section 48.5-32.1, it tells you in plain language, proposes to establish general maintenance and operating millage rate. That's the only millage rate that is referenced in the law. So and that's what we're going to talk about tonight. The M&O, also referred to as the general fund. Talk about what a penny's worth real quick. State sales tax is 4%. All right, we have 4 local pennies: LOS, SPLOS, T-SPLOS, and E-SPLOS. Right, and they're what each of them are for. Those pennies bring in about $5 million a year each. And I'll just go to the next slide, breaks it out for you here. Here's the 2024 distributions, and this is directly from the Georgia Department of Revenue, the distributions that came into Upson County. You see a little over $5 million a year. There's different admin fees for different type taxes. FLOS distributions, we came up with 3 options in the county. First option was a county-only provision that gave 100% of the benefit of the FLOS to the county M&O. That gives it an equal millage rate reduction for everyone in the county. The second one was proportion to the tax revenue. That broke it out a little differently because most of the tax revenue collected is from the county. And then the third is proportion to the tax digest. And you can see there's some significant changes in the tax differential when we get looking at these different plans. Everything I did was based on a $2,000 property. This is just looking at M&O property. And this shows you paying a city M&O and a county M&O that the city taxpayer pays more tax than the county taxpayer. About $288 more for M&O tax. Actually, 34% difference. The first option that we did, or first proposal that we came up with from the county, was a county-only M&O rollback, right? Why do we propose this? We propose it because it is what's fair to the taxpayers. And this bill is all about the taxpayers. It's not about the county, it's not about the city, it's about the taxpayer, right? It benefits every property owner in the county the same. Now, what's bad about this bill? Well, we have another taxing authority in the county, which is the city. And going this route really doesn't recognize that they're taxing authority and they're politicians as well. So it would be really, I think, a tough pill to swallow to go that route, right? But it is a legitimate route. Other counties in the state have already gone this route because it is what's most fair to the taxpayer. And, here's where we showed what would happen if we went this route. It would reduce every property owner in the county's M&O millage rate by 4.88 mills. Reduce every property owner. That's homesteaders, businesses, investment properties, everyone. And what you see is the savings, right? Up top is the taxes that we talked about previously, and in bold is what their taxes become. And in the green is how much a individual who has a $200,000 valued property would save. And as you see, with the 100% zero a city resident and a county resident both save $390.40. So that is where that fairness comes in. Everybody's saving the same ratio based on a 4.88 mil reduction on the county. The second proposal that we had was proportion to combined tax revenues, right? This is an equitable way to do it. It would significantly reduce the city M&O tax, but it would not eliminate it. Some cons to it, I said it establishes a precedent, right? You could manipulate this one a little bit if you were so inclined. Again, this one still keeps the city taxpayer paying more tax for the exact same value property as a county taxpayer. So that's a con for me. Here's the tax revenue layout. So it comes out to about an 88-12% split if you did by tax revenue. And then I did the calculations based on that. And what that does is it reduces the county millage rate. Instead of by 4.88, now it reduces it by 4.29. A little less county. And then it reduces the city by 1.677. And you see what happens here is the city taxpayer is getting a larger tax savings. They're getting $477.36 worth of savings compared to a county taxpayer who's getting $343 worth of savings. However, I put up there what I call it a tax inequity. The tax inequity means the city taxpayer is still paying $154 more than a county taxpayer for the exact same value property. So the final proposal that we looked at was based on proportioning the combined net digest. I call this parity. I said it significantly reduces and possibly eliminates the city M&O tax. That could vary year to year. The con here is that when we fix this percentage, it could be that produces more money than what the city actually levies on a tax, right? And so there's provisions where you can roll that back into the county M&O and spread that out if there were some funds. That's how the law is written. The combined net digest is $1,383,275,392. How does that break out between the county and the city? The county net digest is $1,025,495,333. The city, $357,780,059. It comes out to roughly a 74-26 split. And this is where we were. And what is great about this proposal is it is fair in that each party will get 3.607 mils off of the city and off of the county, right? But also what it does is when you multiply the city's current millage rate by their net digest, it produces about $9,000 more than what they were levying for taxes. So it eliminates the city M&O tax altogether. There is no city M&O tax under this proposal. And here it shows when we reduce the millage rate by the 3.608, I think it's a 7, but 608, it completely eliminates the city M&O tax, right? It reduces the county M&O tax by the exact same millage rate, the exact same reduction for both tax entities, 3.608, right? And therefore, the tax on a $200,000 property in the city and the tax on a $200,000 property in the county is $468.16, looking at M&O taxes. You'll see here that the city taxpayer saved almost double. They saved $577 off of their tax bill compared to a county resident who saved $288 off of their tax bill. The great thing here is it is the same across the board. Whether you're a city resident, a county resident, you're paying a fair amount of tax. For your property, there is zero tax inequity. We're paying the same thing, right? Again, some people may look at it, hey, the city's getting a much better deal. They are getting a better deal, so they've been paying more taxes, right? That was the third proposal, and again, the tax differential is 0%. And that's where we left off. You know, we need a referendum to approve that. That was we went from 0 to 26%. I know the city was at 40%, right? So 26% has come all the way past halfway, right? So I don't know how we can be more fair than everybody pays the same amount for the same property. That is fair. So that is our presentation, Mayor, and I'll stop there and I'll turn off the screen, and it's up to any of your questions or a vote.
All right. Anything you want to just do now, or you want to let Russell present the cities?
Let Russell.
Let Russell present.
So when I swipe, will it move? That will move? Okay. Thank you, Chairman, Mayor, Mayor and County Commission Board, people in the crowd. So, you know, I don't think that the city has any disagreements with the county in terms of the calculation or net benefit is presented. The gist of the conflict happens.
Yes, sir. Can we get you to stand closer to the mic on this side, maybe?
Where,
The mic's right there.
here?
Yeah, just so people would.
Back to my point, you know, I don't think the city has any question about the calculations or their interpretation of savings to city county taxpayers. The main difference is in how we achieve tax equity. So moving on, kind of this presentation focuses on the county's cost distribution, the floss revenue flow. What the city sees is proposed equity solutions, and then the real impact to taxpayers. So when we talk about the cost of the government, we strip down everything that's not primary government. So the primary would be your police, your fire, your road department, you know, things like that. We took out all enterprise funds, power utilities, water utilities, sewer utilities, and we just focused on government. So when you look at the city's general fund, $10,045,000 and some change. Over to the counties, you're at $18 million, about $18.9 million. If you take a proportion of the total cost of government in Thomaston and Upson County, the city's cost represents about 35% of what it costs to operate government, whether that be a county government or whether that be a state government. We talked about services. Everything that the county provides is essential. Everything that the city provides is statutorial, that a group of citizens got together and they decided they wanted for themselves. So everybody's important. All right, now to the county's proposed floss flood. So we looked at it at a 74-26 ratio. And where it seems that the taxpayer receives equity, when you look at the cost of government, the way that the county has proposed the split, the county general fund would receive a subsidy of 19.63%, and the city's general fund would only receive a 12.9% subsidy. So you have some imbalance there as a proportion to the cost of government. All right, so what I did next is I took the $5 million that we anticipate that we're going to collect, and I said, how would I break that $5 million out to where it equally benefits the county and the city as a proportion of their cost? We know the county's going to be more because their general fund's $18 million. City's going to be a little bit less, but it don't have to be a 12-20 split. How do we get those up to where they're equal? Well, the magic number is 17.3%. So if we split the taxes in proportion to these numbers that you see right here, each general fund, both city and the county, receive a revenue subsidy of 17.3%. Splits it right down the middle. That comes out to a 35-65% allocation. All right, moving on. All right, I broke it. Should have given that one. Dang. All right. So the ignored cost of government. What happens in a county general fund or a city general fund when the money's not there? Let's say the county receives 20% subsidy and the county gets 20% and the city gets 12%, right? The other cost of that government just doesn't disappear. So you say, well, the city might be getting a benefit, but if we're only receiving 12% of the subsidy and the county's receiving 19% of the subsidy, who do you think gets to make up that difference? Think the cost goes away? Cost doesn't go away. It goes to the city taxpayers. All right, so sharing the savings, I gave you a little chart. This was county presentation number 1, 100% to the county, the 74-26, and then we'll call this the equal proposition where we have 17.3% of our general fund is subsidized by the taxpayer. All right, fairness equals trust in local government. Obviously, both bodies want to be transparent. We want to have balanced benefits. We want to be collaborative, meet together, and do what's ultimately best for the taxpayers. Even though we differ in opinion, we calculate math a different way. At the end of the day, it's for the benefit of our citizens. All right, so this is the spreadsheet that everybody's got in front of them. This is kind of a recap of everything we've talked about. At the very top, you'll see the county's general fund and the city's general fund, your combined total here. Excuse me. All right, next, we've got the county's proposal at $26.74. I had a little fun. I drew a frowny face right there. Staff gave me a hard time. But that was just to show that makes the city taxpayer not happy because they're receiving almost a 7% decrease in the subsidy of their general fund compared to our counterparts of the county. All right, happy smiley face. That's our 17.3%, which equalizes the subsidy to the general fund. That splits the $5 million revenues at equivalent 35 and 65%. Then I gave you a litany. I believe the chairman has already provided this information. You've got your T-SPLOST, City 39, Local Option City 9, SPLOST 39. You average those is 37.6. Tax Digest Incorporated 32. There is some difference in opinion on how that's calculated, so we'll just strike that one. Population, city's 35.1, and then general fund percentage of total government. We looked at that. County's general fund's 18 million. City's general fund's 10 million. If you do the combined math, the total cost of government, city's about 35.67%. So, all things being considered equal, we feel like a subsidy that balances each general fund is the most fair way to distribute the sales tax proceeds. But this does not give consideration to point of sale, which is where the sale actually happens for the sales tax, where it's generated. It doesn't consider the daytime population, right? So the census is taken where you lay your head down at night. Well, what happens in the day when everybody goes shopping, they go to the technical school, they go to the hospital, they come to the courthouse? That daytime population for Thomaston increases. So where on paper we may be 35% of the population, during the daylight hours when those services actually have to be provided and cared for and paid for, that number gets a little bit higher. So, what's the cost of that, right? How do you peg a number to where the sales tax is generated, what the daytime population is, and how do you put a worth on that? We put the chairman's proposal is not taking into consideration the cost of service for each government. It's just a tax subsidy. Millage rates related to a cost. It's part of a revenue generator. And what I mean by that is when you talk about millage, a lot of people get confused. So mill means thousandth. So in the county, one mill's worth $1 million. In the city, one mill's worth $300,000. And those are equivalents. They're a little bit off. So if the city drops 3 mills, it looks like we dropped a lot if the county only drops 1. But when you do the math, they're actually equal because 3 city mills equals 1 county mill. All right. The only time that sales tax has been litigated in the history of Upson County, a Superior Court judge awarded the city of Thomaston 43%. All right, so now let's talk about out-of-towners. Back in 2000, I think 22, 23, we contracted with, I think, WLA Studios. We did a retail study. So what they do is they come in and they try to help us get businesses. Well, part of that is they give you a supply and a demand number. How much supply does your community sell, and what's the demand for the city corporate and the county, and then they kind of go from the outside and they give you the numbers. So what we came up with is the supply in Upson County actually exceeds the demand, right? So when supply exceeds demand, that means somebody else is buying those goods and services. When you calculate the math, based on our study we did, and it's available, and I believe it's on our website. And for those following us on YouTube, you know, I've got this whole spreadsheet was uploaded to the website, so you can go back and check it and play with it. But anyway, what was determined is 13.4% of the sales are actually provided by people who don't live in Thomaston or Upson County. They live somewhere else. Pike County, Zebulon, Butler, Crawford County, you name it. They're coming into Thomaston and they're spending their money. So the question I pose, you know, the city council, the county commission, the taxpayers is, if we've got 13.4% of this revenue, right, we should split that revenue. Should it go to the city, where all the businesses are, where 94% of the sales happen, where the city government funds all the services that create that economic engine, like your police department, your fire department, your water department, your sewer department? You know, where should that money go? Instead of taking 94% as the study, what we did was we calculated it at a 75-25 break, where 75% of the money that's generated by people that are not from Upson County should go to the city, 25% of that money should go to the county. Here's your math over on the side, $502,000 and some change. 167 for the county. When you add that back in, all right, 502, your new split is city, $2,240,705. County is at $2,759,294 for a split of county 55.19 and city 44.18. Now, what I told my group is I said, I can be justifiable anywhere between this 34.6 and this 44.81. Because at the bare minimum, this 34% gets me to equal supplement of the cost of government. Anything beyond that is just giving credence to, these out-of-town people in that 13.4% and where they spend their money. And before I turn it over, Mayor, I just want to touch on a few things. We talk a lot about tax parity and equality amongst the taxpayer. Well, I'll tell you this, there's nothing fair or parity about this bill, okay? 65% of the people that live in the city don't own their own house, right? So right off the rip, they're paying more money. They're not paying less. They're gonna get a sales tax, they're gonna pay 9%, 0 property tax savings. Point number 2, let's call them landlord number 1. I had staff go in and do a calculation. Landlord number 1, he's going to benefit about 75 times what the average person. So the average person, the calculation I used was $150,000. Average landlord is going to get 75 times that amount in a tax break, right? City manager number 1 is going to get 4.5 times that tax break than little old lady. Chairman is going to get 4 times that tax break than little old lady. So what you got, you talk about the little old lady losing their house, little old lady's probably renting. Not only is she not getting a tax break, she's paying 9% in sales tax to subsidize her landlord, who's getting 75 times the benefit. The city's position is that the voters choose to put this into law. There will be tax savings, but make no mistake, large landowners, rental house owners, they're going to be the primary beneficiary of this. The bottom tier of our citizenry, the 65% are not fortunate enough to own houses. They're going to be paying this bill for this tax relief. If we split it in proportion with the city, we talked about equality, the city millage will go down more. No doubt about it. But that tax savings will be passed on at a greater rate to our businesses, our retail, and our commercial entities that help subsidize this economic end. That's all I got.
Thank you for that. Now we'll turn it over to questions from either side that may have some questions.
I got some thoughts on that. And thank you, Russell. Appreciate that. Okay, we're back up. So, Russell covered a few points there. One, he spoke at great length about revenue, about the revenue for the city, right? This law is about tax relief, right? Two totally different things, right? And he spoke, one, about revenue. Two, he spoke about services and the cost of those services. And then 3, he talked about the sales tax, right, and the impact. So I'd like to show a couple of other slides and kind of talk to those points. Revenues, real revenues. We talked about lost and splost and T-splost, right? He talked about 2012 where there was a lot of contention between the city and the county. That's when I was first moving to Upson County, and I was like, what the heck is going on here, right? You know, there was a lawsuit that ensued, and some decisions were made. Some things you can't even consider, which were brought up in these negotiations. But, you know, since that time, there's been another loss. 10 years later, there was another loss. And then there's been a SPLOS, and there's been a T-SPLOS. We talked about what the revenues were from those. Mr. Thompson gave you I think 35.15% for the population. I put on here 35.44% because that's what the U.S. Census Bureau said in 2020. And, you know, even though these things happened in 22, they're based off of a 2020 census, right? And then we have one in 2024. You might could argue some adjustment, but who do you go with? What numbers do you go with? Who knows what the population is? There's no requirement in Georgia to adjust the population on any estimates. The only acceptable population figures officially recognized by the state of Georgia are the decimal census figures compiled by the U.S. Census Bureau. That's part of the official code of Georgia annotated. That is the law. So the law says 35.44%. And what the distributions would be for Thomaston with these three types of revenue if we just went by law. But there was negotiations, right? And so to Mr. Thompson's point, you know, the loss is at 39.2%, right? So it is $193,000 more every year that the city of Thomaston gets beyond the population. And I don't have any issue with that whatsoever. I agree with Mr. Thompson's argument about the services. The next one is the SPLOS, the Special Purpose Local Option Sales Tax. What you see there is a significant difference, right? The SPLOS does not have to be negotiated at all, right? The county can call a Tier 1 SPLOS and not have any negotiations and give the city the equivalent of the population. But it's not the population of the entire, not that percentage of the entire $5 million, right? Because the county can say, hey, we have a building, we issue debt, and we can take the debt off the top. And we can do that for other projects, Tier 1 projects, Tier 2 projects, whatever projects the county decides to do, come off the top. The remaining funds are then required to be distributed by law in accordance with population. So in this example I show you here, if the county were to have not negotiated or had negotiated this, they could have taken the $1.5 million a year that we pay for the Justice Center off the top, right? But they didn't. So they're getting 33.35 of the entire $5 million, it's $1.8 million. That's an additional $500,000 a year that didn't have to be. And I'm not complaining that it is. What I'm telling you is that the county has not in any way, shape, or form strong-armed any negotiations. It's been very open in negotiations. I think no one wants to have another 2012, right? So we just ask for some recognition of that. And then the T-SPLOS, the percentage is up to 40.75%, right? That's another $257,000 a year. So when we talk about real revenue, real money that's coming into the city, you see there's almost $1 million that is based purely on cordial negotiations, right? And so I think that should be taken into credit when you talk about, hey, the city has extra requirements, right? and they need extra funds, there should be some credit given back to, the city is getting extra funds based on negotiations to the tune of almost $1 million a year. So that goes to revenue. We talk about services. Each government entity has to provide services, right? The county has to provide certain services. The city provides certain services because the city got chartered, and as he explained, that's how it works. If you want to do these things, you're able to apply taxes in order to do these things, right? One service that used to be combined was the ambulance service, right? The ambulance service was a joint project, right? It's no longer a joint project. The county pays for it. But if you were to look at the heat map for the ambulance service, you can see there's so many dots in the city of Thomaston, you can't count them all, right? So, but there's no proportionate ratio for that, right? It's just that's the service that we provide. So, as a city, you provide services. As a county, we provide services. I would wonder where would the monies go if you were to get 35%, right? In that it takes 26% to eliminate the M&O tax. Mr. Mayor, where would the other 9% be applied?
They can be applied, right now, we call the Department of Revenue said they have not ruled that it could not be used for joint projects.
Right.
Or anywhere else that is a millage rate. Per the phone call we had, Russell, I want to say something wrong.
So, Mr. Chairman, my recommendation to my body would be either we take the front, if it's a Department of Revenue issue and they take issue with applying it to other property taxes, we would just conjoin our millage.
Okay. So what Mr. Russell just said is what is the problem with joint projects, right? When you look at joint projects is a special taxing district, right? On its face, it sounds like a wonderful idea, right? It sounds like cooperation. But in reality, there's no projects in joint projects. In reality, it's just normal general service type stuff, which is why Mr. Thompson referred, well, hey, we can take it back into our general fund. So what happens when those things happen, right? Here's why every taxpayer should be wary when you hear the term joint projects, right? There is no rollback requirement in the law for joint projects, right? There is no mechanism to roll back joint projects. So 2 weeks ago, the city proposed that we conduct a new joint project, right, which is animal control. I personally believe that we could probably work together and do a good job of animal control. Where is animal control funds at right now? They're in the general fund of the county and the city, right? What happens if you move that to a joint project? Right? This is where taxpayers need to know because it's not transparent. There's no transparency in joint projects whatsoever. Right? I don't even know the numbers, but let's just say easy numbers. It's $250,000 on the county and $100,000 on the city. Right? Just easy numbers. Those funds would be budgeted against joint projects. You could raise the joint projects millage rate next year, and if you meet your rollback rate for your general M&O, you don't have to advertise that there was an increase in tax rate, right? So, in theory, you could raise the county taxes by $250,000. You could raise the city taxes by a third of $1 million, right? on the joint projects and never say anything. Andy calculates the rollback rate. Andy does not know our budget. Andy does not know that we took $250,000 out of the general fund budget to move to joint projects. So when Andy calculates our rollback, he's going to calculate, we're going to get an extra $250,000 in general funds with our taxes. So the taxpayer just experienced a $250,000 tax increase in the county, and maybe a $333,000 tax increase in the city, with no one ever saying a word, no one ever the wiser, right? I'm not saying that would happen. I'm telling you how it works and how it could happen. I haven't seen that happen. But there's no transparency in joint projects. There's no law that requires us to have a rollback. That is why when you look at the House Bill 581 and it references a paragraph that deals with rollback, that only talks about the M&O. That is the only tax that we roll back. That is the only tax that the law requires, that if we are going to be higher on our millage rate than what Andy has on that PT 32.1 form that says that is our rollback, we must advertise in the paper, we must have 3 public hearings, and we must tell the public we are raising taxes. If we do it this other way, we don't. There's no requirement, right? On good faith, we might, but don't trust a politician. So that is why I do not agree that it should be allowed to go to a joint project. Now, if the city said, okay, we're going to roll all this up into the general fund, right? Because we're going to get more money, right? They could say, hey, don't worry about it because we got this other money coming, right? The county cannot, right? So now we don't have a partner for our joint project. We have to roll that up, and guess what Andy's going to say? Hey, make sure you tell the paper you just raised taxes by 3 mils, right? And we'll have 3 hearings, to try to explain that we were moving money around. Joint projects is a shell game. I'm just being honest. It's a shell game. I don't like it. I think there's better ways to do it, but it is what it is right now. I think that's a horrible idea to do that. Also in joint projects, very ineffective. I've only been to 3 joint project meetings, very ineffective, right? We have a joint project for concessions. We want to do the concession stand, right? If we agree that we are partners in parks and recreation, right? But we can't move forward because someone has an issue with some other funding that has nothing to do with parks and recreation. It makes it almost impossible to do what we want to do for the community, right? So it creates more complications than necessary. So I'm not a fan, I'll say it out loud, I'm not a fan of joint projects. I think there's flaws in joint projects. I don't believe the law allows the city to put the excess funds in joint projects. I do see a way forward that they could use them in the general fund. It will cause a lot of confusion for the citizens of Upson County and Thomaston, because they're saying there's no taxes increasing when we're advertising there's taxes increasing. Very difficult position to be in if you are trying to sell that. So let's go back. We talked about tax equity, which Mr. Thompson mentioned, right? This is what I say is tax equity, right? With no floss, the city taxpayer is paying 38% more in taxes than their counterparts. With the county only, it becomes even higher because all the tax breaks come off of the county, right? And then with the tax revenue, it comes back to about equal because why? We're applying equal amounts of proportion, 12% and 88%. All right, but when we get to the net digest and we apply it based on the net digest, the city homeowner is saving significantly more, and there is parity. We're paying the same amount for the same property. What happens when we do what Mr. Thompson just proposed? What happens, I used a 33, I didn't use 35 because we talked about 33. The city taxpayer, if you could apply it that way, would save more. $630.16 on a $200,000 house. The county property owner who has the same $200,000 property is now saving less, $261.26. Now, if you look at where the city was at 40%, it's even worse, right? So my question is, the city says it's not fair that a city taxpayer has a greater burden of tax than a county taxpayer. I think we can all agree to that. Yeah? I think we can agree that's not fair. A city taxpayer is paying more for the same property than a county taxpayer. And if that is true, then you can't flip it on its head and say a county taxpayer should pay 14% or 28% more than a city taxpayer for the same property.
Anyone?
Just a couple of points, and I'll be real brief. Local option sales tax is not based on population. There's 8 points of consideration in the actual statute. When you look at the ambulance heat map, when we're talking cost of services, the issues in the city, when we're talking about taking revenue, well, those people, they're in the county. It's not just the city, they're in the county. The concession stand budget didn't get approved because they wanted to spend $1.2 million that wasn't budgeted. And the special taxing district was born out of litigation because under the service delivery law, supplemental powers that are offered under the Constitution by counties, those services cannot be provided within the corporate limits of the city without a contract. So the city entered into the contract with the county to provide those services. And the way we agreed to fund that was by proportion of the tax digest. That's all. Oh, and last thing, I don't think it's too confusing. I think the city of Thomaston residents are smart enough to figure it out.
I represent all
Hey,
the churches
wait,
in Upson County.
sorry, but there's no comment from the thing, I understand.
It's not
Just a
Yeah.
question.
No, we can't do that, or we'd be here all night. And it was agreed upon by everybody that it was just being,
Please let this man speak.
he is the tax commissioner, this is the taxing authority. That's who will speak tonight. Also, you talked about the revenue, and what you call it, a tax relief, it's a tax shift. I think that's kind of a misinterpretation of the law. And it is about revenue wherever you look at it, and if it's not about revenue, then it would be, a true tax relief would be cutting people's budgets. And I know that's hard to do. We try to do it, y'all try to do it. I know, it's, with some of the increases in health care and stuff like that, it's almost impossible to do a lot of the tax cuts to a budget unless people are willing to do without services. And I don't think anybody's wanting to do without some of the services that could be cut. Let's see what else I had. And like I said, you said that the loss and the SPLOS, T-SPLOS and all are different than what it was. Actually, you say that the city's getting more than we should. Well, a judge ruled that we should be getting 43% and we're getting less than that. So that's a point I think needed correcting as well. I think there was concessions made for apparent reasons for all this. Like I said, you wasn't there, some of us were here, some of us wasn't. I think some of in order to get, you gotta have the intergovernmental again to get 6 years instead of a 5-year on SPOS, and some of that was to do with.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you, JD, and I hope I made that point, that I was not saying that we were strong arming. I was saying all those things were taken in consideration, right, into how we got to where we're at, right, to what the revenues are. Those things that we're talking about tonight to address, let's be real, $700,000 is what we're trying to address, right? $700,000 is 0.7 mils for the county, all right?
Which is 2.5 mils for the city.
Yeah.
Almost.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why I don't think a lot of people, again, it's some kind of education. They don't realize that a mill of tax in the county is different than a mill of tax. And if you reduce both places by 1 mill, one's getting a lot more than the other because they don't understand. A lot of people don't understand that the whole mill. I don't think I did before I got on exactly fully what the heck was going on.
It's not easy. I agree. It's not easy. Right.
And I think it's purposely made complicated so the average person doesn't understand.
Right. But what the average person does understand is how much they're paying. Right. The average person doesn't understand what your budget is or what our budget is or where we're drawing revenue from, whether it is from the county, predominantly property tax, T-SPOS, SPOS, loss. That's it. From the city, those same things plus enterprise services, right? They run the utilities and make a profit. So there is monies that are being made. So like if you have a business, right, the city is making money off of that business, right? Every time water is used, the city's making money. Every time a light comes on, the city.
County doesn't make any money on water.
We do a pass-through. We pay the city what it costs us. We charge what we get from the city. It's a pass-through. So what the taxpayer understands is how much they are paying in tax, right? And so what I have on the screen here is how much savings a taxpayer would get with the option that we proposed at 74.26, and then the other one was the 60/40. I didn't calculate a 33, but as you can see, the tax differential on a $150,000 property is the county pays $9.18 more in tax. Everywhere you see red, the county taxpayer is paying more money. But when you look at the 74.26, right, $9.18 more, right, but saving almost $200 less, right? And that goes all the way up to a $600,000 home. I didn't know how far to take it, but at the most, it's lunch, right? But when you go the other way, it becomes even greater, right? So, and the homeowner is only saving $175 for the year, which, to Russell's point, to Mr. Thompson's point, is you got to weigh, is it even worth it at that point? Is it worth it, right? So, because there is an extra penny, right? Now, they would have to spend what is it, $17,500 extra to do that. So a penny is, if the average income in Thomaston, household income is less than $40,000 a year in Thomaston, right? Once you take out rent, car payment, insurances, utilities, right, gas, you have cell phones. Once you take out those things, you get down to the essentials. How much money are families spending on the local economy per month? right? And so if they had $1,000 to spend on the local economy each month, that would equal $10 in extra tax, right? And that would come out to $120 in sales tax for a year, right? And so using that rationale, does it become worth it when we go to a 60-40 split? The average homestead right now is about $180,000+. And to give up that much savings to the city and not see it on the county side and not have equity, I'm not sure that's an argument that we can make. What are your thoughts?
Anybody want to add something?
Does you mentioned the taxpayer, what they understand, does the taxpayer also understand that even though they're paying an extra penny sales tax, that budgets could still go up, property values are going to increase, that they could still end up paying within a couple of years back to what they were paying in property tax, as well as still paying an additional sales tax?
That's a great point, Troy. But it also, they're still saving that 3.608 mils. So when their house goes up.
But when we get back to that from budget increases, like we said, we had insurance increases.
So every year, we're getting the revenue, right, to offset the taxes. So every year, starting in 2027, we will have 5-point-something million dollars. And it could be split between the city and the county in some method, right? And that's going to roll off. Right now, the proposal we have, 3.608 mils for the city and the county, right? If you don't have this and you're just paying 3.5 mils extra, right, on top of the growth, you lose the savings. The savings is going to be there for the entire 5 years, and then we can renew it. The savings stay every year, the penny's still coming in. In fact, with inflation, it might be a greater penny, right? It might be more than 5 million. It might be 5.2 million. It might be 5.3 million. Yeah, go ahead.
Has any consideration or thought been given to that if we raise to a 9% sales tax, that, well, I think we have 13% out of town spending in the revenue, that how much of that we will lose by going up to a higher percentage sales tax?
So I just explained to you that you have to spend $1,000 to spend $10 in tax.
Right, but if I live in Meriwether County,
Right, so-
if I spend 9% in Upson County, I'll just go to LaGrange or
So
Truth County
if I
or
came and
somewhere
bought
else.
groceries at Walmart and I spent $150, right? It's going to cost me $1.50 extra, right? I would challenge you, who calculates that? I buy a Diet Mountain Dew every day. I walk into the Circle K. Sometimes it's $2.19. Sometimes it's $2.29. I still buy the Diet Mountain Dew, right? And so that is consumer habit. That's how retail sales work. I don't think that it is that significant an increase of outlay for any family household that is going to cause them to say, no, I'm going to drive all the way to Griffin to buy groceries, right? So, I mean, that's just, it's not a significant amount of money for any particular household when you look at 1 cent, right? That is kind of what is known as a fair tax, right? With 2 cents, we could eliminate all the city and county tax. We couldn't eliminate the Board of Education tax, but with 2 cents, we could eliminate it all, right? That's what a fair tax is. Fair tax is everybody's paying to get the services that we're getting, right? Right now, it's just the property owners, right? And this law, right, was directed at homesteaders, and we got the benefit for the homesteader. We did not get the benefit for the non-homesteader. We did not get the benefit for the businesses. We did not get the benefit for the investment property owners, right? So this particular floss, while it will still benefit homesteaders, it's going to benefit all the businesses. It's going to benefit all the landlords, right? And that's the purpose of it, right? Now, will every household pay just a little bit more in sales tax? Yes, they will. But it is not a significant amount that's going to cause them to say, wow, man, the sales tax got me this month, right? But that penny by each of those individual shoppers adds up to a significant amount of money, over $5 million, right? Everybody gives a little, it becomes a lot, right? And it can help all the property owners in Upson County, in Thomaston. And when you look at property taxes, right, and we look at where do people want to build homes, where do people want to pay a mortgage at, then Upson County becomes looking pretty good. What this does right here is it lowers everybody's mortgage. Next year, when this hits, instead of getting the notice from the bank that we got to adjust your escrow by $1,500 because of your taxes and your fire insurance, you're not going to see that, right? Because it's going to go down by 3.6 mils. Right? Everybody's mortgage payment would not go up based on escrow.
I think a lot of it is what we're hearing from our constituents is, a lot of these are renters and they feel like they're gonna be hit harder because they're not gonna get that mortgage reduction. Their landlords are not gonna adjust the rents either way because it's a lot to do with just market rent. I mean, whether you had zero property tax or not, if they can rent that house for $1,500, they'll rent that house for $1,500.
I totally agree with you. I wish there was a ton of benevolent landlords, right? But we all know it's market based. What will the property rent for? Any property owner is most likely going to rent the property for as much as it will rent for. That is basic economics, right? And we're not going to change that.
But that's not the point. The point is that how do we find relief for those people? That's incumbent upon us to do that, and this does not deliver that to those people. 65%. Regardless of market value, regardless of what it's going to rent for, regardless of what they can get for it. That is a glaring issue to 65%. That is a lot of people that we have to address, and that when we go to do this, we've got to make sure. You spoke of equities and fairness. I hate the fair. What is fairness?
Right.
What is that? Okay, that's a silly term. So it's all about the situation that we each have to. You deal with county residents. We're having to deal with city residents, and particularly in my example of 65%. So equity and fairness are totally jaded when I'm dealing with a city resident in that position, and then you're dealing with.
But let's go back to.
Let me finish.
Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So when we talk about that, I mean, we're talking. Your statistics, and don't even get me started on the assessments. I want everybody to know the assessments that this is going to be based on is going to be frozen for 50 years. And correct me if I'm wrong, Russell. So when you take that into account in this law, we all know that assessments are broken. Go look at your own assessment. So just know, when this is done, you're locked in for 50 years. You want to talk about inequity? You go look, I'm sure there's an example on everybody's street about houses that are similar and what they're assessed at, but that's a conversation for another day. But my point being is your examples work great in a vacuum, but we're not in a vacuum. The millages are different. We've got constituents that are in different situations. So it's incumbent upon me and others in their districts to get the most that we can in order to offset what that person will recognize, particularly in that 65% group. So, I mean, you asked, and you also made a point that I want to make sure we clarify.
Sure.
Excuse me. You said on the joint project stuff that it was going into the general fund, which that is, in this case of floss, that is not. I want to make sure. I don't know if you misspoke or what, but
I don't know. Can you clarify what you heard me say?
Yeah, you said that if on the joint project stuff, that will go straight into the general fund, and that is false. That it cannot go into the general fund. It can go straight against the joint project portion of their tax bill.
No,
none of these funds can go to the general. These revenues can go into the general fund. You said general fund.
I said that if you took something off the joint project and moved it to a general fund, it would change the budget of the general fund, it would change the tax rate of the general fund.
Well, I want to make sure that what you're saying and what they're hearing is the same. That will not go into income into the city as would a utility. So that money has to go to property tax relief, be it M&O or be it JP. So in that law, I have also talked to people, contacts at the Department of Revenue, and they have not opined. And again, I want to make sure everybody understands this too. You said that your interpretation, and that's, I'm not a lawyer, you're not a lawyer.
Right.
Or we don't work for, well, no offense, Heath, but you know, point being that has not been clarified, and they have not said that you cannot use it for JP.
So I will agree that no one has written an opinion since the law has been written. I will tell you that I spoken at length numerous times with a primary crafter of the law, and that was the intent. I will tell you that the official code of Georgia annotated only mentions rollbacks for M&O, and that's what I stated earlier. There is no provision anywhere to roll back any other type of.
Nor against.
Huh?
Nor against it. Striking it, saying you can't do it.
I didn't say you can't do it. I just said there's no provision for it.
You said it was your interpretation.
There is no process for it with
Okay,
the
well, that's
Department of
what-
Revenue.
I just want to make sure everybody understands that is not off the table. Right.
Yeah, it is unknown. We can agree to that.
But it's not off the table.
Be some legislative stuff
We
in
don't know.
January probably to clarify, I would think.
Yeah, I would think they have to clarify. So,
But that would be in January, before they can even start doing that with the new session. If the laws change.
yeah, the law could change any year. So I don't know what's going to happen. I can't tell you what's going to happen in the future.
And I will just end with, we need to come up with a resolution. This needs to happen. You know, it's it's a very imperfect piece of legislation. I mean, there is, I know the intent's there,
Yeah.
but when you unroll or peel back the layers of the onion, it's very imperfect. And, you know, for some of the reasons you just mentioned about, you know, having it, you know, you said benevolence, but, you know, I think that we need to come to a resolution. 26% ain't it. So, you know, and I'm looking at your math, and we probably need to have a conversation after this about your math. But, you know, at the end of the day, we need to have relief to the taxpayers, and I hope tonight that we can do that. But I think it, you know, to use the terms, it needs to be equitable, and I don't personally think that 26% is equitable.
Okay, I hear you.
For many reasons.
I hear you. But what I would say is, we're talking about 35% on the, that's what I'm hearing. We're talking about 35%. And I didn't hear anything in the presentation or by any member of the council or mayor as to how that would benefit the 65% of the renters that we were just talking about. I mean, it's two different arguments, and I don't see how they tie together. Again, renters in Upson County, whether it's in Thomaston or the unincorporated area, right? They're buying goods and services just like the property owners in Upson County. The household income dictates that there's not going to be excessive amounts of spending, right? The more money you have, the more you can spend on non-essentials, right? We stated that even if they could spend $1,000 a month, that's $10 in tax for a household, right? Throughout the county. That is not a great number compared to the savings that we can provide. For the reason of this bill is to provide taxpayer relief for property tax.
Well, I would add that for many years before I was mayor and all that, the enterprise fund for the city, the power company,
Right.
which is, I think, been a problem, I'm not personally saying with this board or whatever, between the city and county. The county has been jealous, which rightfully so. We've got a good income thing coming in with the thing. If we can keep utility rates at a competitive rate, we've been transferring over $4 to $5 million Is that right, Russell? Lonnie Burke, TLC, each year to offset from us having to go up on the millage rate. So those renters have been paying money toward the millage rate reduction before before this tax relief bill stuff got cool. The city of Thomaston, not for me too, so I ain't taking credit for it. Before that, they said, hey, let's take this money that we're getting from that to offset property taxes. So it's been, they've been offsetting property. And then, so what we could do is not take as much, because we've been told we don't need to be drawing that much out of the enterprise fund because you need to improve your stuff. We've got a Plant Vogel thing that we're worrying about that if it wasn't for our leadership, we wouldn't look at for the next 30 years until we're all dead and gone probably, and it's going to increase in the taxpayer will be on the ticket for that. So that's what I think we would look at in the future would be to not use those extra money you say to offset, so you don't have to pull so much from that. Is somewhere I would look at it, which would, again, there's your savings for everybody.
Yeah, so what I heard you say, JD, is that if you got the 35%, you would be able to reduce.
I didn't say that. I said we would not have to supplement millage rate decreases through enterprise funds.
So you wouldn't have to take $4 million out of utilities to pay service.
Again, it sounds like you're jealous that we can do that. And y'all can't.
No, I'm not. I mean, Thomasville does it almost entirely on those. So, I mean, that's how cities operate. I'm not complaining about how the operation works.
Just a question real quick. So over that time period where you guys have not increased your millage rate, your utility rates have stayed the same or gone down?
So we've levied what we call a power cost adjustment. So that's it's a rider on your bill. Georgia Power calls it a nuclear recovery fee. So we bill that incrementally each year, which you could consider a rate increase, but 100% of that money is escrowed. It goes into a trust account to pay down the Plant Vogel bill.
What it comes to do is basically a sinking fund, debt defeasance. It's not.
And I just got a question, I guess I'll ask to Russell, and I'm not trying to start an argument, but just be fair now. I've lived here my whole life, lived in the city, I've lived in the county. So if you supplemented, just like I said in the last meeting, and I say decades because I was a recipient of that decades ago. If you raise the utility rate to keep from raising the millage rate, politically you look great, okay? Because you don't have to explain that millage rate. Power goes up, you got to pay more. So now there's a big inequity between the two. And you're going, hey, we need to recover this money, we need to invest into our infrastructure, we need to make sure we got things to grow. But, if it had been raised along the way instead of supplementing, so now you're sort of asking us to, hey, you're asking the taxpayer to forfeit the homeowner, since y'all classified as renters, you're asking the homeowner to correct your wrong. That's not right.
So to your point, the enterprise transfer, the way we explain it to city council, is the taxpayers of the city of Thomaston invested in a power utility. We consider that like a stock. When that stock's profitable, we pay the taxpayer dividend back in the form of a transfer, which keeps property taxes low. The justification of that is that you spread the cost around the city, you'll keep the property tax low, and that's an okay thing to do as long as your power rates fall within the bell curve of what average is. So we're cheaper than residential, we're cheaper than Georgia Power in every caveat up to 2,500 kilowatts, that's commercial and residential. EMC, we're cheaper in the summer. I think there's one threshold in the winter. So to the point, it's not fair to the taxpayer. We argue we've paid them a dividend throughout the years to keep property taxes low while keeping rates constant with our competition. But the issue, the point that does have to be made is there's ongoing Plant Vogel debt that has to be paid. So if there's a way that you could construe it to where that PCA, and I was talking to Mr. Watson about, wouldn't have to be levied, you could essentially lower tax rate, or excuse me, power rates. However, I think without some substantial change to the law, that would be impractical as far as mixing property taxes with utility funds. I see the true benefit to the renter is an indirect benefit, but what a larger city allowance would do is, because our millage rate would go down 3 times as fast as the county, the real beneficiary of receipt of that sales tax money would be your commercial and your retail businesses. So I tell my staff all the time, we're 34% poverty, right? County's a little better, but you're like 27, state average is 14. How do we beat that? The only way we beat that is to grow our economy. We got to become more entrepreneurial friendly. Well, a better way to do that than to give commercial business and retail a 3-to-1 property tax levy. I'm negotiating from 26 to 35%.
So can y'all explain exactly how the renter would see the savings?
Yeah.
I mean, it's indirect. So, I mean, that doesn't seem like I want to know, like, if I'm a renter, how are they going to see that benefit if we go more than 26?
Well, if your economy grows and there's more opportunity and there's more business, hopefully you grow out of that.
If we get more industry, our economy's going to grow, and
That's true.
I mean, all that takes place whether we have this option before us or not.
That's true.
I mean, I get the point. You got renters, but we got hundreds of homeowners to seek relief. We got businesses in the city that need relief, and if we can't reach an agreement tonight, nobody gets anything. And y'all use scenarios where you say, well, point of purchase, everything's in the city, we provide. So you're telling these businesses and these corporations, we're not concerned about you, we're concerned about this one group over here, because it fits our narrative.
Well, if you missed my presentation, the crux of it was the county wants a 19% subsidy while offering the city a 12% subsidy. That's not one group, that's the entire tax-paying population of the incorporated city of Thomaston.
Yeah, Russell, I'll just go back and say, again, you're talking about revenue streams, and we're talking about real tax relief to homeowners and property owners in Thomaston and Upson County.
Does
You're talking
taxes
that you're-
generate revenue?
Yeah, you've been tying them, you go back and forth whether you tie them together or not. I mean, I'm glad to see now you in your illustration, when it benefits your narrative, you're tying back revenues to millage. I don't know how you don't marry the two. I mean.
So the law says that this $5 million will only be used
Correct.
to roll back taxes, right? And what Russell has proposed is we want it to be a certain percentage of our revenue. And I'm just saying, he's using revenue speak.
Cost, not
Yes.
revenue. Cost.
Cost.
Revenue to offset the cost of doing business, right? And so that is a very business manager-like way of looking at it, but that is not the intent of the law. The intent of the law is to provide property tax relief, right? And it is for property owners, whether they're homeowners, investment property owners, or businesses, right? That's who we need to be looking at to help. Right?
Regardless of what you call it, at the end of the day, whatever is generated is going straight to the property owner. Regardless of what you're terming it,
Yeah.
it's going straight there. So I mean, you're convoluting the two things and making it seem as though that the city is because you keep calling it revenue, and it's not revenue.
is not revenue in the context of its tax relief, right? The fund, it is a shift in tax. It is a shift in
I
tax
agree.
from property tax to sales tax.
Those tax not revenue?
It is, JD. Those funds still go, they still go to the general fund of the city and the general fund of the county. That's where those funds, when any calculation.
Ultimately, where do they go?
Yeah.
Ultimately, where do they go? I mean, that's a conduit, but ultimately, where does it go? By the law.
I'm not following you.
I mean, you're saying it's going into the general fund, and I don't make sure these people aren't confused. I mean, it's going, it may be a conduit into the general fund, but it's going straight to roll back the millage. It has to. It has to. I don't want to make sure, I mean, we use them interchangeably, and it's, I just want to make sure that we're.
Yeah, I think I've been perfectly clear that we're rolling back millage rate. I even pointed out what the exact millage rate rollbacks will be for each proposal. Right, so, you know, where we're at here is the unknown with the joint project, right? And the city's desire to roll back joint projects as a means of taking more of the penny, right? That's where we're at. And we don't know if that's going to work or not. And on our side, we don't believe that's equitable to the actual taxpayers, because the city taxpayers benefit far, far greater than any county taxpayer ever will with this percentage. When we start going beyond the 26% mark, at the 26% mark, it is a win-win scenario. The city taxpayer is getting a great reduction in their taxes. The county taxpayer is getting a good reduction in their taxes. Once you go beyond that, it becomes a win-lose scenario. Okay.
May I add to your conversation, please? My name's Tom Greathouse. I represent District 4 with the City of Thomaston. Thank y'all for coming here tonight. I appreciate the adult conversation we have. It's been a quite lively debate, but like I said, who do we represent? I represent District 4, which is the southern part of the city, over to the western side. Commissioner Ben Watson, he's part of my district. He represents most of the city of Thomaston. Mr. Ellington represents another part of my district. He represents the western part of Thomaston. We've got to understand something. This is not the city versus the county. The county commissioners are representatives of the city of Thomaston. The city of Thomaston is part of the county. If you look at the county map, each person has a portion of the city in their district. And of course, you know, the chairman represents the entire city and county. So we're not at each other's throat. You know, what we're trying to do here is come to a common, equitable solution. Well, the litmus test is always what is fair, what is right, and what is legal. Now, again, my position on floss is a fair split of sales tax money collected should be 50%, because 94% of all of the money for sales tax is collected where? In the city of Thomaston, by businesses that are operating in the city of Thomaston, by businesses that receive services from the city of Thomaston, whether it be electric, water, sewer, fire, police protection, or whatnot. These are city services provided by the city of Thomaston. Again, it's 94% of all these sales taxes. Again, we're talking what, 12 to 18% are from people who do not live here. So that's another good one for us. We are getting free money. Now, you know, we've got to understand that I'm willing to negotiate down to 40%. And that's moving quite a ways. That's 40% with caveats and concessions with the Upson County Commission to search items as joint projects. Joint projects is not a bad thing. Joint projects is a quasi-consolidation. And we're looking at the area of consolidation because some people are asking, would we operate better government as a one government consolidation. And we're looking at studies at this point in time. See if we would operate as well as Columbus, Muskogee County, Macon, Bibb County, Athens, Clark County. Those are things we're looking at. We're studying this. We're researching this. And again, I appreciate the conversation we're having here, but you know, joint projects is not a shell game. We're not hiding money. This is public money. It's accountable. You have to be audited. Everything we have is free and open. We have the newspaper. We have the radio. All of these people are present. Nothing's hidden here. There's no shell game, to use your words. So we just want to do the right thing. We're representing the same people, and we're just trying to do the right and proper thing for everybody involved. Thank you.
Thank you.
Dan, are you? I mean, we're here to negotiate. So are y'all willing to move at all?
We're at 26%. Anything above 26% is not a value to execute for property owners in the unincorporated area. You know, we've done the math. You can look at the savings. The savings are exponentially greater for the residents of the city of Thomaston at a 74-26% split. The taxes are the same for equal value properties at a 74-26 split. You know, we've heard the theoretical benefit of having 35 and how it would help others, but it will not help the unincorporated, and it is not something that I think we can even consider looking at the savings for the homeowners and the property owners in the city of Thomaston compared to the unincorporated property owners.
Mr. Greathouse said 40, I'm willing to go 36.
I just asked y'all to do this. Look, whatever we decide tonight, it is what it is. But in the coming days, I challenge you to take this sheet out to your constituents. And you might want to go see some of your property owners and show them this sheet and ask them what they think.
And I have, and the property owners who really want it are the landlords that own 50 or 100 properties. They said that it would not save them any.
Have you went to the businesses?
Yes, we've asked the businesses.
And they said they didn't want it.
They want a split that where we see it.
Did they say this wasn't equitable for them?
They want a higher percentage, is what they told us. That's what our citizens in the city of Thomaston have asked for.
Good luck with that.
And we presented, we're at 44. Y'all are presented at 26, and that's split in the middle is 35, in which I thought we had an agreement the other day at 35, but obviously you spoke out of line with the rest of them because they're not willing to go over the 26. That's very disappointing and disheartening, because I thought we were very, very close. Very, very close to the other day at 35.
We were close at 33.
No, you said 35. You stuck your hand out and said, I will shake right now on 35. And we were still up
That
to-
was if it was just the 35, but then there was all the other
There's
concessions.
so many caveats.
That's what we said.
We can't negotiate for the sheriff.
So if we didn't say the caveats and just said 35, would you fine with that?
At the time, yes.
But not now.
I mean, it's pretty clear that you're taking.
It's pretty clear.
I'm gonna lay to the feet.
I don't care, you're not.
I'll recognize him. We
Okay,
said we would
We
recognize
say we
him.
recognize the boards.
No, we said elected
Oh, you
officials.
said that. But, okay, go ahead.
You don't mind.
I gotta
He's
go to
an
the
astronaut.
bathroom. I gotta go to the bathroom.
Of course.
I'll sit here again then. If you want to be that way, you stand up, sir, you speak your name. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Listen, you know, what I'm hearing are cost numbers. Cost that the city has to pay, cost that the county has to pay. I'm hearing city math, I'm hearing county. Okay? These forms I'm giving you right now for taxpayer relief, these are the amounts when I do the roll-off from this $5 million proposed tax relief, okay? And JD, I ain't gonna get you upset, but
I'm sorry, I had to go to the bathroom too, and it's been going on longer than what we thought.
you know, you got this in the email the other day, right? Let me ask everybody here something. Do you think this lost penny we're talking about is meant for tax relief? Do you think it's meant for tax relief?
Property tax.
Okay, property tax relief. That's what it's meant for. Let me back up a little bit and address the rental landlord issue. To me, if you look down the road, this opens up a renter's market, okay? You're gonna have landlords saving on a $100,000 home, they're gonna get a $300 tax break, okay? Are they gonna pass it along to the renter? No, they're not. But you know what's gonna happen? That's gonna attract, when that house comes open, it's gonna attract the availability to lower that rent to get somebody in there. So that's what I call the renter's market, okay? As far as the digest increasing the next 3 years or 4 or 5 years like this increase, I don't think we're gonna see that. We're not gonna see the jump in revenue, the jump in values that we've seen these last 2 or 3 years. So let's keep all that in mind too. But the bottom line, and you know, I think also we touched about businesses, commercial properties getting these humongous tax breaks. To me, that's a big attraction. Even though you got that extra penny, it's a big attraction for someone to come in here and say, hey, we're going to build in Upson County instead of Meriwether County because we're going to get a big tax break. And another thing about the renters, how's this going to affect your 65%? These 65% of renters, are they not serviced by the ambulance service of the county? These city people, are they not serviced by the ambulance cost to the county? Are they not serviced by the law enforcement provided by the city? These renters are, so this gives them skin in the game to me. But let's look, I wanted to close with this sheet right here. Some of us don't like the word fair, okay? I'm the one that sits and talks to these, and don't say there's not widowed ladies and elderly couples in $100,000 and $150,000 homes out there that are just renting. There's some that own their homes, and they need these tax breaks. This is what it's meant for. But you look at that first one right there, $100,000. This is at 7426, okay? You look at a $100,000 homestead, and this is tax math. This is not city or county math. This is how it's going to come out on the tax bill, okay? $100,000 homestead city taxpayer gets $253 of tax relief. The unincorporated taxpayer in that same valued home only gets $109. The ones in the $100,000 and $150,000 homes are the ones struggling. If you go above 26%, these unincorporated taxpayers are going to see that much less savings. If you find a way to apply this floss to joint projects, that's that much more money you're moving that this unincorporated taxpayer is not going to be able to save. So they're out there spending $5 to $10 more a month on sales tax. When you get above 26%, they're not saving any money, and that's who it's intended for. Floss is not perfect, but it's better than what we got, okay? So I ask you, just like I asked you in the email the other day, swap sides. Swap sides. Would the city be happy if they were looking at their taxpayers being the ones saving only $109 or $181? Everybody understands the fact that every taxpayer in Upson County pays county taxes, including city taxpayers, right? So they're getting that county break. The city taxpayer that helps the city pay for these services provided to these businesses that would be taking in this money, does this city taxpayer break not recognize that? If Andy were King Solomon and he wanted to keep it fair, Andy would say 85-15, solely based on the $100,000 and $150,000 homestead taxpayer getting a good break, getting a fair break, okay? That's what I got.
Thank you, Andy. So we're at 26.
Hang on.
They need to go to the bathroom.
Oh, you gonna take a break? You gonna take a recess?
We take 5 minutes?
We can take a 5-minute recess.
5 minutes, we're done.
It is 7:44. Let's come back at 7. Come back at 5 till. 5 till.
It depends if it's located in the city or Thomaston. Right. This isn't about.
I'm gonna go to the bathroom. Okay.
I'm not a skinny. But they use the
Troy, you may need to go there.
Do they not?
Hey, man. Yeah, I see this guy outside the back over the fence all the time, every day when I'm out working at farm walk. Tried to pinch my hand off today.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah.
Well, they found the cat in Hill Street Neighbors this morning. I'm telling you.
Well, I scared everybody when I said bad about the coyotes. Coyotes, in fact, that's what I said last night. That's what I said last night. Jane was there talking about animal control and things. And just they circle around, I said, let me have coyotes. They cleared all the property in the national district, so it's pushed them in town. I'm having a problem with that. I'm seeing them everywhere. I'm hearing them. They're going to take out the pigs, the dogs, and the cats. If they can't bring me, they hurt the small kids, and somebody else. I said, who's responsible for animal control, game? And somebody said, well, just shoot them. I said, you can't shoot in the city. I said, number one, if you hit, number two, you hit some of your roots, you hit some.
Yeah, I remember just last year, I think I killed one over by me.
Like you put out traps and you get the dog and cat.
Because every house that sells in my neighborhood
I mean,
turns into a
even Hudson, who does it professionally,
And I'm in
you
the
know, he
city,
can't get them all.
and they ain't doing nothing.
I got a real problem with my farm.
My farm, which is behind the justice center, is actually, the coyote population seems to have gone down over the past.
I know because they moved to town. I hear them yapping outside my fence and they hit my dog with all. At first I thought it was raccoons coming in to get my bird seed. But now I'm thinking more it's the cat, it's the coyote. That's all I'm saying. So Ricky don't want, he gives a guttural when he calls.
Now, what we
Yeah, I'll see you on that, you have to throw a hand in.
You probably sitting there all day, probably sitting cutting grass, that's what I'm gonna do over there.
One house on 48 acres.
But, you know, the whole neighborhood, we have
I know.
there was a lot of reasons why. About that.
It's somewhat of a pass-through because of the insurance. Big reimbursement. Right. So, there's a real.
Her dad's done.
You said that.
Appreciate your comments.
Yeah, man. It's good. All right, y'all buying that? Shit. I got about 10 more minutes.
We got some chicken left over here.
Move on. Joe, eat all that pizza up there.
Hey, we got chicken left over yesterday.
I do. I'll just take a picture.
Already legal stuff?
Yeah, I go ahead and do that.
Motions, no
Five years apart. Y'all went in the 40 next
Yeah.
I was like, oh wow, I didn't realize that.
And I like it because everybody thinks he's the oldest brother.
I saw your buddy this Sunday. Jonathan. Yeah, he was down for Aunt Lorraine's birthday.
Yeah.
For the kids.
I stay with him at least once a month up in Athens because I'm doing a lot of work up there. So we see each other all the time.
He got it made.
Yeah, doing well for himself.
Doing well. They tell me a lot of the hunting they do out in Brazil.
Yeah. He's got he's in Oconee, he's got the property out on Jason Highway, and his brother-in-law has a bunch of property in Southwood, and he goes to all of them.
They love it too.
He does.
Man, I think we're about 15 years in too.
Yeah.
Okay, we got 2 bars.
Somebody told me that
No.
I have people text that they couldn't see
I don't know. I hadn't pulled it up. I just been text said can't see. It's YouTube though, right?
Can we come back?
They pushed it 2007.
Taking it out.
Look at him go.
I mean, I paid on the phone. Had a bunch of money for we get hit by the because the Jackson property, the big houses, McMansions up there. So that's killing us from farm because we can't claim on the city penny. My wife wanted to move up. Hey, you build a house. You want to live in a small house for you? She said, no. I said, I don't want to be in debt. Go to retirement house. What you want to build a barn dominion? Couldn't find that exact same one from it take him over a year to go do it. He's doing work with this, but I don't have the skill set yet. I can work on run property, but I can't build it. We get 3 meals and eat at the end. I thought Ben.
Hey, I have 7:56. We agreed to reconvene at 7:55. So we have forms back for both the mayor and city council and the county commissioners. So. We're talking about the percentages. We're talking about the county being at 26%. I did have a sidebar with Mr. Councilman Tucker afterwards during the break. You know, we did want to point out that the 26% that the county is recommending is a formula, and that's what it happens to be this year. It's based on tax digest. That formula is what we really want the approval on, right? So that doesn't mean it's 26% next year. And we talked about a couple of things, options for possible annexation to create more commercial real estate opportunities for the city of Thomaston, which would generate more revenue through services and would change their percentage of the tax digest. So I just wanted to clarify that, you know, even though we're talking percentages here, the end game is a repeatable formula, because it does us no good to agree tonight to do something on a percentage if in 5 years we're going to come back and say, well, let's change the percentage. You know, if we have a formula in place that we can all agree to, that, you know, it may adjust a point here, a point there, any given year, and Andy will figure that out around July of each year of what that formula is, what that percentage is based on the proportion to the combined net digest. So again, we have mentioned a couple of things that the county is definitely willing to consider as far as annexations to create opportunities for the city. One, it will increase their digest, and two, provide potential revenue streams for city services. I just want to clarify that. So there's no cap on 26, is what I'm saying. That's not.
But that's that way of figuring up that it's at 26 now. You're not willing to change any view of how we presented anything in coming in at a higher percentage.
Well, I think we have to look at the $100,000 and $150,000 properties to understand if it's if it's viable at all, right? And I have this really high-speed government laptop the county gave me that just shut down on me. So give me a second. I can pull the spreadsheet back up. And I did clarify again to Councilman Tucker, the numbers I used were not homestead numbers. Andy uses as an extra step, taking out the homestead exemption for city and county property owners. I did it more on a general property, so in Andy's case, it might show maybe a greater success. I should say Commissioner Chastain, I'm sorry.
Andy's good.
Just a suggestion for the board of commissioners and the city council to take into consideration. Should we reach impasse tonight, would both bodies be agreeable to give Mr. Joyce and myself 30 days to negotiate pending his start with the county? And that if both bodies and managers can agree that both bodies submit to binding arbitration?
Mr. Thompson, the issue at hand is we have a deadline to meet in order to get on the ballot.
This would be for the special election.
So my understanding is that we can't have a special election for FOSS. It has to be on a general election ballot.
For the next general election ballot, then.
I don't know that I have let me see if I have a spreadsheet where I can throw in a different option.
I think it could be on the March ballot if it wasn't on this ballot. I don't know what that means. Implying it.
Would have to be November.
I think it could be on the March ballot, is what I looked at. It would be on this coming March. If it wasn't on the November ballot, it would be on the March line, and I don't know if that'd be enough time to implement it for the following year or not. I don't know.
So you can't enact it till we get it. Once it's voted on, will it take place July 1st? Or you don't have to wait till January 1?
That's right.
It takes effect the first day of the quarter following the election, as long as there was 60 days. I think some formula. Basically, if you do it for November, you can do it when January. So it's the next quarter with at least so many days in between.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, what would be the purpose in pushing it to May? I mean, I think we're gonna be right where we're at tonight.
I think what he was saying is, you and Lonnie,
And that's great, JD, I
And
get
then
that,
it
but
would
me
go to-
and you are elected.
and then
to
we go to
represent
the
these
arbitration.
Yeah, submit the binding arbitration.
That means if it could get, it would be, instead of it not coming on the ballot at all, we'd be forced by binding arbitration to some kind of percentage.
So somebody outside this group's gonna tell us what we gotta do.
If we couldn't come to an agreement tonight, that's what,
I mean, that's our job.
Can it be drawn into law? Because this has got to be law.
so. So, I was just plugging in $100,000 home. So, when we look at a $100,000 home, like Indy was just speaking about, that homeowner at the 33% range, right? This is non-homestead. This is just a $100,000 property. So the valuation is $100,000, the assessment is $40,000. And at 33, it saves that property owner $130 a year. Right? And that's without a homestead exemption. And when we're looking at if they spend $10 a month in extra sales tax, it's $120.
How many homeowners do you have without homestead exemption? Hardly.
T-Flush.
That homestead property would save less than $100 a year.
hard pressed to find a house that's assessed at $100,000.
You know how many people are living in their house that they bought for $40,000 25 years ago, and now it's worth $100,000? You know how many struggle to pay their taxes? $100 isn't much to me and you, but to them it's pretty good. That's what we're here for, just to help the taxpayers.
So, the way I'm seeing it is, if it's at 33% on a $100,000 home, you can definitely check my math, because I don't want to be the guy. I'd see a $100,000 home valuation is a $40,000 assessment minus a $10,000 homestead exemption is $30,000. Right? At 33%, 67% split, that would give the taxpayer on the county, on my calculation, 3.266 meals off. So
That'd be about right.
that's $5,000. I mean, $5 million. Let's not lose 3 zeros. Divide by 1,025,495.
What was your millage? 3 point what? 3.26.
266, I think.
That'd knock it down to 6, that'd knock your 9.46 down to 6.2.
So,
So you gotta take that.
$5 million times 0.67 is $3,350,000. We divide that by our meal, which is $1,025,000 and $459,000. So it knocks off 2.66 meals.
Right, multiply
3.266.
multiply 30,000 times .00946. That's your millage now. $283.80, right?
Right.
All right, write that number down. What was your rollback millage? 3 point what?
266.
266.
You reduce it by 3.266.
All right, that comes down to 6.194. Take 30,000, multiply it times, what did I say?
194, it comes out to 185.82.
Subtract the difference. That's your savings.
Yeah,
$100.
$98. Penny doesn't.
You're spreading it over the whole population of the county. It don't go far.
Kevin, I understand your point here is that
Yeah,
for the people that really needs to help,
it wouldn't help.
it's not at that percentage, if the percentage they're proposing is not even, it's actually gonna hurt the people that's designed to help.
you can be realistic there, James. Those people, they probably won't be spending $10 more a month on sales in Upson County, probably more like $500 because their income won't allow them to do it. Still, you know, it's like you said, you're not getting there where it needs to be for them. To help them.
It just doesn't work.
So I guess where we're at is y'all are not interested in going anything higher than the 26.
I mean, what we demonstrated is that it will not be a benefit to those who would need it the most.
And then our group, where we at? 36, you said?
36.
So it was said earlier that each one of us represent both city and county residents. I guess my question would be to the elected officials from the city, if you were in our shoes, looking at these two charts, how would you justify to the county residents taking savings out of their pocket and putting it in the hands of the city residents?
Just like
When I said that earlier. Yeah.
I mean, elected officials don't have an answer.
I think that we all can agree with the 94% where the revenues are generated. Where are those generated? City? Right. Can we agree on that?
They're already, the city resident is going to be getting a bigger
Can we agree on
savings.
that?
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's
So
not a
what,
point of sale tax.
what's that?
It's not a point of sale tax.
Well, I mean, but at the end of the day, it's all going, the point of sale tax is going to erase property tax, correct?
Right.
So it's safe to say that you have to marry the two.
Somewhat.
Okay, well, if it's not generated, how does it get to property tax?
But the person in the county is helping generate that tax.
That's
in
right.
Yeah, but in order to have built over the years the economic driver that's the impetus of generating 94% of that, that has to stand for something, and I don't think the delta on these two, it stands for it enough in your presentation. So at the end of the day, you know, I think that God knows what the infrastructure and the cost of the city in order to get it to where it is now, in order to generate that 94%, I think we're selling short. But, you know, I haven't agreed with much that's been said tonight, but I mean, I can agree that, and again, this is just me, that, you know, our impasse is only going to hurt the the property taxpayer, property owner. So, I mean, if and, you know, like I said, I didn't agree with much, but with when Andy said that it's better than nothing, I mean, I hear what he's saying, and it's better than what we have now. But, you know, with that said, I'm willing to negotiate off the 26, excuse me, what the numbers have been thrown around the city side, me personally, because, you know, I do see benefit in having relief to the property tax owner, to the property owner, excuse me. And, you know, that's me at the end of the day. So, I mean, I do see merit in that, but, you know, and I shared with you, you know, where we started and what we thought we had an agreement on it, and then all of a sudden it's this, you know, I'm trying.
Crunch the numbers.
They crunch the numbers. Yeah, they crunch the numbers. You crunch the numbers?
These are the real numbers.
Yeah. But, you know, at the end of the day, I think that there can be a happy medium. I don't think 26 is it, but if that's the best we got, you know, I don't want to, you know, I'm not running next year. So, you know, I don't really have a dog in the fight after right now. But, you know, I do want to see people in District 3 get some kind of tax relief. You know, do I like 26? No. Is it fair and equitable or whatever other term you use like that? No. Absolutely farthest thing from it. But, you know, at the end of the day, I got to stare them in the face, and I still have property here and live here somewhat. So, I mean, but
I respect Ryan because he's probably the smartest one on our side of the
I don't know
table.
about that. Smart son.
He knows numbers, I know that.
And like I said, you know,
He's a banker.
we need to overcome this impasse. Like I said, I'm willing to move down from 40 to 37 because 37 is the average for our T-Splosh, our loss, and our Splosh. You know, if we do 37, I mean, that's already in place. The citizens are already aware of this, they're already used to this. It's no great change for them. And it shows that we're willing to compromise to work it out for, like I said, for the property owner, for the homesteader, for everyone.
Business.
Business.
And if y'all weren't willing to come off the 26 any, would you renegotiate the loss for a higher one? Because you've already said you see some of the extra services that we pay for. And could we go with a higher percentage on the loss and leave it at the 26 for everybody? And that's true property tax, you said is equal for everybody, but it would also justify the, you want to call it revenue or whatever you want to call it, from the city's view of it. Is that something that's doable?
So, again, when we're talking about revenue and tax rollback, right? So, you roll back the tax, that revenue is there from the floss, right? That's replacing that property tax, right? So if we try to negotiate something else, right, we still take a deficit in our actual revenue, right? As of right now, no one takes a deficit in their revenue because this is just a shift. And so what you just asked us to do was actually have to go back and do a tax increase to get the revenue that we have today.
Just trying to throw something out there.
Jay, I mean,
I appreciate it.
Once again, I mean, I don't got any qualms with anybody. I ran because the city and the county couldn't get along. I kind of see why they don't now, but not because of any of y'all's fault. We're trying to do the right thing for our constituents. I honestly believe that. But we shouldn't even be looking at this as a revenue. I mean, this comes in and it goes right back out. And when we're talking about renegotiating this, you're giving all indications that may not be your point, JD, but I've heard it mentioned several times. But it seems to me y'all looking for a revenue source. Because that's all we keep diverting back to.
No, I think we're looking for tax relief.
Tax relief.
Well, here it is. Right here it is. You take that and put it in front of any reasonable person, and you put that. If I brought your tax bill to you and I laid that in front of you and said this could be your savings, honestly, Ryan, what would you say? That looks good to me.
As a taxpayer, yes, but it's incumbent upon me that is, if we're looking behind the curtain to see what makes this up, I think I'm privy to a little bit more knowledge than, you know, an average homeowner. Not that I'm any smarter, but I'm just privy to other things around the economics of how a city functions. So yeah, if you brought it to me as a non somebody that's not on the city council, that is not privy to these type of things, budgets, and seeing how joint projects work and the economics that's driving the city and that drives the county, yeah, I would. Hence, the statement I just made, that, I mean, at the end of the day, I want relief for them. And, you know, I think we're all at the same conclusion. It's just, you know, what's equitable and fair. Again, I hate to say, I can't believe I'm using that word, but,
Nothing wrong with it.
so.
Well, and I think that's what we want to do, but I think what our goal, and what we're attempting to do is we're not trying to supplement anything. We're not looking for another revenue source. We're looking to put something on the ballot, let people vote for it, that's gonna go and reduce their taxes. We don't have we don't want a dime of this money. We want it to go to the tax.
We don't want a dime of it either. But at 74.26, I would be saying the same thing you are.
But you're saying because of what it costs you to run the city.
It's not a cost to run the city, it's what the city has provided in all the things that we've mentioned, infrastructure throughout the whole
But
gamut.
you get retail, you got businesses, you got a lot of industry. By providing all those things, you bring in other stuff to increase your revenue. So if you didn't provide those resources, what would it look like today? I'm asking, I'm trying to be realistic here. When you live in the city limits, you're able to tax for the services that you claiming that everybody takes benefit of. That happens all over the United States. Everybody understands that, but at the end of the day, that's why you're a taxing authority. You live in the city limits to pay for enhanced services. Your taxes go. I don't get curbside pickup. I don't get put my limbs by the road. I don't get into that.
You look at this as a revenue.
No, I'm not looking at y'all want using revenue. I'm using tax relief.
And when you say it was going to come in and go into whatever it was going to go into.
I didn't say that. I didn't say that. You know I didn't say that.
Okay.
I'm saying this. Look, everybody in this room can look at that. Everybody watching can see that. I guarantee anybody you show this to, city or county resident sees this, those running for offices, take this out with you on your campaign trail and show it to the folks. And I guarantee you which one they're going to pick.
And like I said, if I was at 74.26 and plus not having the inside knowledge that I do, I would 100% agree with you.
So the 37% that was just mentioned, I use the exact same math, and you just walk me through that that unincorporated homesteader would save $92 a year if we went with 37%. And so again, when we look at the cost of the penny, it's not feasible, it's not economical. It makes sense to go through all this for that. And if we're trying to help those people, you know, we can't help them with charging them a penny and then lowering their taxes only by $92. JD, you have a couple of people who want to be recognized.
Just a point, I think the only way you can provide tax relief is either through expenditure cuts, which we're not talking about, or supplemental revenue. So to confuse the two is separate. They're synonymous. You can't have one without the other. And to Commissioner Watkins' question, you know, how do they ask, you know, county residents to pay more to subsidize the city? The flip side of that is, how do you ask 65% of the city residents to send 74% of the money to the county that gets a 7% break over the city resident who's going to wind up paying more money on sales tax?
I didn't follow.
I didn't follow that either.
65% of our citizens rent, right? So they're not going to pay taxes, right? They're going to get another.
Somebody's paying taxes where they live.
Yeah.
Right, but they're not getting a break, right? The poorest of the poor rent or own homes. Can we agree
It's
on that?
tax relief.
Not
If you
them
don't-
is what he's saying.
It's property tax.
Property tax relief. That's what this law is about.
But we're talking about representative of constituents and what the financial impact of those constituents. That's the county's position. The financial impact to the 100,000 property dollar property is not going to be beneficial. It's the financial impact, right? So the financial impact of 65% of the city residents is they got to pay more sales tax, and we're going to ship off 74% of it to the county government.
But they
So how
pay
can you
sales
act-
tax for a service, right, that they're receiving.
So how can you
But they don't
ask?
pay property tax for the service.
The question was, how can you ask a $100,000 property owner in the county to subsidize the city? Well, how can you tell 65% of the city residents to subsidize the county?
So I think, Mr. Thompson, that goes back to, being a Republican, I believe in fair tax, right? And so the whole concept here is a fair tax. Is it fair, right, that only property owners bear the burden of services, whether it's in a county or a city or anywhere else? Is that fair, right? And so most would say that's not fair, that you work hard, you try to buy a home, you live in that home, and eventually you may have paid that home off, but you never finish paying the home off because you always have to pay property tax, right? And that is the crux of the argument, right? Or is that fair that you never own your home, you always owe the government money, right? Or is it more fair that everyone pays a penny, a sales tax, to provide those same services that everyone enjoys, not just the property owner? So at 37%, there's no value added for property owners in unincorporated Upson County. I got to look at everyone. I think there's great value there for property owners within the city limits. I think there's great value at 26% for property owners within the city limits. I mean, there's substantial savings for a property owner within the city limits at 26%, far greater than that of an unincorporated property owner. Again, the 26% is not a fixed number. It is part of a formula. That could change next year to 73-27. It could change next year to 72-28. It depends on what the digest do. And if we continue economic growth within the city limits of Thomaston, or we expand the city limits of Thomaston, which we're willing to look at in order to provide an avenue to create economic growth, there's potential that that number changes over a period of time. But today, 26% is what is going to provide tax relief to members of the unincorporated population. Anything more than that, it really does not do so at this time.
Can we all agree that tying it to the digest is a little bit scary? I mean, who here agrees that the digest is accurate about a commission's own wishes to have the Department of Revenue come in to look at it? So I don't think that would be wise at all. I have gross issues with
So
that.
what portion would be not be able to change? The homesteader's portion is the only portion that would not change next year, right? And we saw that in our tax bills this year. We'll see that, right? Because on your homestead property, it's going to show your 2024 value, right? And then on your joint projects and on your unincorporated, it's going to show fair market value for 2025. That's going to happen again next year, right? We're going to see 3 to 5% or more increases in those property values, except on the M&O. Right? But that's only for the homesteaders. So all the businesses, we've seen substantial changes in the digest just this year on the businesses. You can go on to QPublic and look up any business you want. You can compare them to last year. Right? There's been substantial change. There's been substantial changes to investment properties. Right? And so all of that is making the digest better. I do not know of a perfect digest anywhere in the United States, but the the elected members of this community did, say, hey, we need to look at that, and we did things to help that. And that's gonna make taxes even more fair as they get looked at year over year. Every property by law, according to House Bill 581, has to be re-looked at every 3 years. Right? And so we also have our chief appraisers come to us and say, hey, in our budget this year, we would like to have a line item where we're paying someone who does commercial property evaluations for a living. That's their job, right? And so it becomes probably even more accurate than what we have today. But those are steps that we're taking. Right? Can we make the digest perfect? No, but you know and I know everything that starts with taxes starts with the digest.
I came in here tonight hoping there would be some compromise and, to go to 35 and thought we had an agreement, then we conceded to 33, and then we get an IGA at 26. To me, that surely doesn't show the spirit of negotiation. I feel like that I really can't say on camera what it feels like, but I feel like it's pretty, so I'm trying to put that to the side and hold my nose on this thing because I just you spoke of 2012. That's 2012-esque when you want to really get down to it. And I don't want that to be. I know it's my last year, and I'm sure some people probably saying thank God, but I'm not sure. Jared's he's in my district, he's probably saying thank God. But at any rate, I said it when I first came in here that I may not like it, but I want to go out knowing that we gave some relief, and I want to do that. And I hope we can. Yeah, I could. What about 30?
30? It's going to take me a minute. I might need Andy's help again.
I would even entertain a motion at 30.
Did we send them an agreement for 7426? We sent an agreement, right? Showing the 7426 split?
That's the agreement we sent. He's asking what 30 would do.
You sent an agreement at 26.
The IGA we sent.
Yes.
Okay, at 30, that would put the millage rate for the unincorporated area, for county taxes at that would save an unincorporated property owner with a $100,000 property, $102 a year.
And 26 was at what?
185.
We're doing homesteaded or unhomesteaded?
That was a homestead.
Because on Andy's 100 for homestead is 109 at 26.
109.
Yes.
Yeah.
Going to 30 would only drop at $7.
Say it again, Troy, I'm sorry.
So if at a homestead for 100,000,
Yeah.
going to 30% would only drop at $7.
Till,
So from 109 to 102.
I need a bean counter to figure that one out.
Well, that's
That was Andy's math.
Andy's math, I don't have Andy's, okay.
Yeah, it's right. Yeah, that one right there.
So,
Yeah, but is Dan's correct?
Well, I don't know. You'd have to ask Dan that. So
And I get your point. Let's say
Yeah,
you're
so
absolutely right.
he's
You're
absolutely right, you're absolutely right,
But-
because Andy did homestead, I did not homestead.
yeah.
Right. That's why I was at.
So if I live in the county, you're asking me to pay 100, you're saying, hey, that basically, I'm only gonna get $109 in savings, and the city taxpayers, it's gonna get 253.
Well, that's what your current proposal says.
But I'm just saying, that if we increase it, then we're decreasing this.
Well, right.
But you gotta see where we've come down from our ask.
And then city taxpayers
Well,
pay
really,
county
when
taxes
you're
as well.
Well, hell, the ask was we agree, it was 35.
No, well, y'all at 40 and 50 and 33.
Well, I thought this was the spirit of compromise and negotiation, so I mean,
Yeah, Ryan, give me just a
I
second.
want
We'll do
26.
these numbers,
Well,
just like
40.
Andy did.
24.
all right, 52.
I think 724 is on the table.
We go the other way too.
Now, I know it can go the other way, and I'm prepared for it, based on how it's going to begin with.
We better than that. We all better than that, okay?
I don't know. I hope so. I thought so.
We have spent 3 hours up here going in circles, not thinking about the homeowners that we represent, taxpayers.
That's exactly what I'm thinking about.
No, we're not. No, we're not.
Okay.
If so,
That's
this
your
meeting would
opinion.
have been over an hour and a half ago.
Again, if I was at 74.26, I'd probably be done too.
We say we're here for the taxpayers, but we're letting $6, $7 make a big difference. Do what's right. So I think this board, we decided 74-26, and that's what we're sticking to, and I guess whatever the city decides, if you all agree with it, fine. If not, you explain to the people that you represent why the tax is gonna go up. Our proposal is gonna go up.
We need a motion, what we need to do.
If that's the motion y'all going with and sticking with, yeah, make that motion if that's what y'all sticking with.
Yes.
You wanna make that motion?
I make a motion that the percent division is 74-26.
I'll second that.
In the spirit of compromise, where we were, I'll make a motion at 30, at 70/30.
I'll second that motion.
Rich, 70/30, any discussion? I guess, okay. Guess you can let's call a vote. 70/30, huh?
Yes.
Councilmember Reeves?
Yes.
Councilmember Greathouse? Councilmember James?
Yes. I think,
Yeah, we're gonna take our motion, and we have a motion by Commissioner Biggs and a second by Commissioner Ellington, 26%.
Commissioner Biggs?
Yes.
Commissioner Watson?
Yes.
Commissioner Ellington?
Yes.
Chairman Brew?
Yes.
Commissioner Jones?
Yes.
So we're at 26, y'all are at 30.
which is a big jump from Don's original 50 to 30. 20%.
Big jump from 0 to 26.
Well, 26 to 30 is 26 to 30 is a small
I think
jump.
the motion's carried and what's the side?
No.
Make
We
a-
each gotta go back to our constituents and explain what we did tonight.
Yep.
And I don't have a problem with this.
I bet not.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Sir, we tried. Now we drive that below.
This is my brother, I don't know if you know my brother.
I gotta call somebody.
Okay, you guys.
I saw you.
Go up there, wait for